Hi, I'm Joe Rourke, and today we're going to go through the beta version of the Project Workbook. We're sending out the Project Workbook to get feedback from users in terms of some of the data that's being included, some of the information that people would like to see included. One of the things I want to start out with is the config screen. It's the place that people normally start. The config screen has a setup workbook option, allows you to put in for your report data warehouse, the server name, the database name, user ID, and password. And this is what configures the workbook for your information. It sets it up so that you can download all of the data and do all the analysis. We also include advanced where clauses that allow you to restrict out the projects or tasks. So maybe that you want certain lines of businesses or certain project managers, certain accounts. You can limit that via the advanced where clause. And once you've set up and done that initial setup, on the home screen, you can always do the refresh data, which downloads when you do the refresh the most recently updated information that's in the report data warehouse. With all of our performance dashboards, one of the things we do is we provide a portfolio of trend analysis that shows you how you've been trending over the previous period to give you an indication of maybe areas that need to be looked into or sees a trend of where you're headed. So we have task trending and project trending that provides that level. Here what we're seeing is in both cases a 10-week trend, similar to service, that shows you where you started in terms of task backlog, the number of open tasks at the beginning of the 10-week period, how many new tasks have been created, how many completed tasks have been, what's the percent change. We also focus on tasks that are completed on time and also tasks that are completed on budget. So based on a comparison of the estimated time or based on a comparison of the actual time versus the estimated time, you'll get that information. One of the things graphically we present, similar to service, is kind of a backlog analysis of what tasks were created and what tasks were completed. So if I look at this visually, I see that there's 1 week in which I actually completed more tasks than got created in that area. And this is really kind of just the total number of tasks. Since projects have a longer time frame that you're dealing with, just because you're creating tasks, then those tasks that you're creating may not be due until 6 months later. One of the things we show is the tasks that are due in the next 14 days, the next 30 days, the next 90 days, and over 90 days based on the estimated hours. The idea being that I'm interested in this curve that's showing me in the next 14 days, in the next 2 weeks, what was the estimated number of hours of the tasks that are due? Is it growing or is it getting lower? And I see that kind of volume here in terms of everything seems to be getting that the total number of estimated hours is smaller. If it was growing and I saw that the total estimated hours was huge in terms of what needed to be done, then I'd be more concerned. So it gives me that trending. Maybe I'm not as focused on things that are over 90 days. I really want to focus on things that are due in the next 30 days. And so I can actually see is at one point I had 800 hours of estimated tasks that were due within the next 30 days, and now it actually is down, in terms of 235 hours. So I went from 800 to 135 hours. That may be a good thing or a bad thing. It's all based on your capacity. What we'll also do is show you the estimated hours created versus completed tasks to give you an idea of how you're changing in terms of your amount of work that's sitting out in the backlog via estimated hours. Changes in the opening backlog by count. See that 1 week in which I actually completed more tasks than I did created. Information regarding the total hours worked and what the ranges are. So in this case, I can see that there was just basically a lot of tasks that got completed, 212 tickets that completed that had over 40 hours that were worked on. So a lot of volume there. So you're looking at these kind of spikes, and then you want to look to see what occurred. In this case, probably more than likely had a lot of tasks that had been worked on that for some reason were cleaned out. They were marked as complete and hadn't been marked as complete before based on complete date. If you are doing billable hours based on the bill hours type, you would have graphs that were presented for that. We also present information regarding on time and budget. So, number of tasks are completed underneath the estimate. So you have an estimate of the number of hours you expect to complete a task. Am I underneath the estimate? What's my percentages looking like? But also taking a look at completed on time. So you have a projected end date. When did you complete it? and what was the percentage. Here's an indication. Now 0 may be that I actually didn't have any tasks that got completed that week, but you're taking a look and seeing what the percentage happens to be over time and making a conclusion of how well am I doing. Here I would say that it's not that I'm completing things on estimate, but they're not being completed on the schedule. I see variances. I see, average estimate variances. So, the number of tasks that were completed that took over 2 hours from my estimate versus under my estimates. So I get that kind of variance kind of comparison. And then also I look at completed. How many days over the average overage in terms of the days. So if I was supposed to complete something on Monday and I completed on Wednesday, it's a 2-day overage. Well, here I see a spike, and I see a spike of I had a 22-day overage on a bunch of the tasks that got completed. It may have been a project that had been sitting out much longer than needed to be. So I want to take a look at those kind of differences and figure out, what were the number of tasks that were differentiated, and how did those overages affect these kind of volumes. One of the things I can see here is that in these cases where there were 0, there was actually nothing. There were no tasks that were completed. I had no tasks that were completed. So some weeks I haven't completed any tasks. And I can see that over here in terms of the overages. But I also see is that, over 5 days, there were 3 tasks that were over 5 days closed in terms of their tasks, and that what caused the 22 hours. So I had 3 tasks that were over 5 days that averaged to 22 days overage. So I might have had 1 task that was 60 days overdue or something to that effect. I also give breakdowns in terms of some of the distribution of overdue projects and overdue estimates by a project lead and also by lines of businesses, if you're using your lines of businesses. Trending is also important on a project level. So that was all on the task level. Sometimes you want to look at things in terms of open projects, the backlog by project type. So am my client projects versus my internal projects growing? What's my distribution? Oftentimes it's not simply the number of tasks that people are dealing with, but the number of open projects that they're dealing with. That's also important to understand. Estimated hours on started and completed projects. So what's the variance there, similar to the tasks that you saw before. Looking at projects that, and this is demo data, but projects that were completed under an estimate or over estimate. So here's the projects that got completed that were all under estimate. Okay. I could also look at projects that were completed in terms of their variance. Again, a lot of demonstration data here, but I can look at due dates and say, here's a project that got completed, that was completed on time. This project was overdue, project overdue, overdue on time. So there was 2. So it gives me a feel for what the various comparisons happen to be in terms of those tasks. Completed projects, a number of projects that were overdue, and then basically telling you how many days. So basically, I can look and see, in this case, for the projects that were completed and were overdue, how long were they overdue by? Okay. So giving that level of project information, completed average days overdue. So I get that, and the actual distribution of the days for the completed projects that were overdue. And then looking at above and below project estimates based on its due date, not by its completed date, but by its due date. So in one area we look at projects that were completed and okay, were they overdue? And then we look at this one, we look at projects that were due and did we miss a due date on them? And then you get a distribution on all the same information, but on the due date as opposed to the completed date. One of the things that's also important when we look at the trending is we provide a Metrics That Matter screen. Similar to the other workbooks, we provide a Metrics That Matter screen that you can configure based out of the project and the task level calculations are performing. It shows you this week, last week, and 2 weeks ago, along with the 10-week trend, the 10-week against whether or not you met or missed your plan numbers, the ability to put in targets. So in here we just picked out a number of things like project and task related information regarding total number of projects that happen to be open, due tasks that are due on a specific week, overdue tasks that are completed on week, completed. Basically the kind of things that you want to look at to make sure that both the quality and the quantity of information is occurring based on how you want to manage that. So you want to keep the average days, the average overage under a certain percentage. You want to have certain tasks are completed on time, but you also want to make sure that there isn't a certain week where you have a ton of tasks that are being performed. You want to be able to look at that data and understand it and see it, and see how you were performing against your goals. One of the things we also put into the dashboards is the explore screens, and the explore screens really are focused on understanding causes and effects. So you see something in the trending and you want to drill in and understand what's going on, and we provide 3 levels of explore screens within the project workbook. The ability of exploring things at the task level, the ability of exploring things at the project level, and then we created one that was specifically identified for what's currently overdue. So you can drill in and try to understand what's overdue. Some of that will also be on the Explore task screen. So one of the things you wind up looking at is as with the various Explore screens, you have a series of graphs, and then you have a series of slicers that allow you to drill in and see the updated information regarding the task. So I have, in terms of all the data that's in the system, I have 46 open projects with 632 tasks. One of the things that I could do is start using the slicers. In fact, I may actually say I'm really interested in tasks that are currently open. And what I immediately do is I see there's 36 projects that have open tasks, and there are 487 tasks that are currently open. And when I click on that and just said open, all of my graphs change, and I'll just go through some of the graphs. The first one really is the task by the due date. So these are when the tasks were due, so I can see when they're due. I see both what was the task count, what is the remaining, the task count is the bar graphs. I see remaining hours and estimated hours. So I see the total of the estimated hours for all the tasks that are associated and due that week, and I see a comparison of where I'm at from my original estimate to what I have that's still remaining to be done. In terms of some of the graphs, we show tasks that are currently due. In fact, if I cleared out this, you'd see that I currently have. I'll look at my slicers here and make sure that I don't have any other slicers that are set. If I look at the slicers that say tasks that are due, I look at tasks completed versus estimate, so I can immediately see what number of my tasks are under versus over an estimate versus don't have an estimate. I see tasks by last activity. So of the tasks that are currently, maybe I want to say tasks that are currently overdue, how many of them have had activity? So of the 130 tasks, I can immediately say that are currently overdue, I can see that of those, 80 of them haven't had any activity in the last 30 days. And I often look at something that's overdue and say, for something that's overdue, am I actively working on it? Am I working to work on it? So that leads me into certain questions that I want to look at, like overall information regarding what happened in terms of something being open and overdue. Now, one of the things that you can take a look at and understand is just use the slicers to see kind of last activity overdue. I can see the top task by task status, by project status. Here I have waiting to be scheduled. I have percentage of complete. I have my lines of business that I may want to drill into specifically. I have my resources. Maybe I'm really interested in tasks that are due that currently don't have a resource associated to them, or I want to drill into a specific project lead and just say I'm really interested in Sarah's projects, and I can take a look at the 14 projects that are Sarah's and drill into those. I can indicate whether I want internal versus external projects. And basically this is all about looking at the slicers, looking at the information, seeing when they were created, and then we also give a breakdown by the top 15 by resource. So of the selected 632 tasks, 480 don't have a resource associated to them. I can look at by remaining hours. I can look at by the client list and get information regarding remaining hours or count by client list. And I get the individual tasks that I'm looking at. So I can kind of drill in and look at that information as well. We give the same Explore screen on a project level. So if I go over to the Project Explorer screen, same information. I see number of projects, number of remaining hours. So I've got 1,400 remaining hours on the projects, on the 47 remaining projects. And one of the things that I can do is drill into projects based on their project end date. So I could actually look into and say, and some of these, of course, are projects that are overdue, because anything that isn't for the current month is an overdue project. So I could drill into these individual projects and take a look at them if I wish to. I can highlight a series of projects and say the first 3 months of the year, these are the 9 projects. And they're indicating that they don't have any remaining hours, possibly because the tasks that were associated to them didn't include an hour estimate associated to it. You can find that through the slicers. And I can look at basically the project duration, because maybe I'm interested in looking at just projects that have over 100-day duration, and all of these or under 15 days or 30 days to 100 days. Anything that I wanted to drill into regarding the attributes, I can do that. So I may be looking at like the status of a specific project, and I want to drill into something on the status of a specific project, to a specific account, a specific, again, demo. This is demo data, but a specific a project name, or I want to drill into one person's projects and look at the one project that's assigned here for Melissa that has 588 hours remaining on it. And that's probably an ongoing project. I can look at actual hours versus estimate, and I'm really kind of interested in where were the actual hours that were entered on projects beyond my estimate. And I could actually say, I could indicate where was I over, and this is going to drill into the 4 projects where I was over my estimate. Where was I under? It's going to give me the 41. So really allowing me to drive into, either on an estimate basis or an overdue basis, what's going on with my projects, give me my distribution by project lead, by project type, by departments, by lines of business, and then I always get the details of the individual projects below. The last Explorer screen that we provide is a look at overdue information. One of the things that you'll see here is that there's one filter that's always set up here, and it's defaulting to overdue, just so that it shows you overdue tasks. You could actually change it to say I wanted to look at tasks that are due in the next 14 days or due beyond 14 days. Now, what we wind up doing is we show here overdue tasks by the month that they were due in. You get this kind of distribution curve, and it shows you the remaining hours and the total task count. I can drill into a specific month and just look at a specific month of what was due in January, and basically everyone will focus in on simply that 1 month. One of the things that you can wind up doing is go through and drill into those specific things. I also get an overdue task by the week that was due, in addition to the month that was due. We provide a table form of the resources, and the resources have 3 columns. It tells you the remaining hours. It's descending by remaining hours, the number of tasks, and the average that they were overdue, the average number of days they were overdue. Because really that's what you're looking at, is even though the average may be large, you want to find out who or what is having the most difficulty. So I both get that on a resource basis and the project account basis, so I can drill into specific projects that may be having a specific issue. I get the average overage days in terms of the project leads, number of days overdue in terms of the total number of days for overdue, the number of days since there was last activity, distribution by project status. If I were going in and I said I'm really interested in projects that are on hold by the customer, okay, and now look at me at 2 projects that are on hold by the customer, and I can drill in and take a look at those individual projects. Likewise, I can see distributions by department, by line of business, by task status, or I can actually drill into specific accounts and just highlight one or multiple accounts and look at the 6 projects that are associated with those accounts. And I get the project update down below in terms of what's going on with that particular project. So that's really kind of the analysis. We provide a number of spreadsheet data views for task analysis and for project analysis. Similar to previous workbooks, you'll have your metrics that matter at the top that you can modify, and there's a section that provides the ability for you to put your target values, so you can compare, put those as your targets over and under. We also provide, all of the data in terms of this is the task analysis that are doing all the calculations. Okay, and you can use any of these in the metrics that matter section. We also have a full project analysis section as well that's doing the analysis on a project level. And what's not represented in the line graphs, but it's really kind of a nice reference material, is backlog analysis that shows you the overall of the current backlog that was downloaded, a backlog analysis by project level across your project leads. So if I was interested in total open projects, I immediately would say open projects. Steve has 19, and I can see Sarah has 11. So I know how many open projects people have, how many overdue projects people have. Okay, I can also see the distribution by lines of business. Who's dealing with specific types of projects from specific departments, or I can really see that right now that Angela has 2 internal projects where the rest are using client projects. So you get that. I know overdue remaining hours. So basically overdue remaining hours. This is my summary by project lead. So this is the project leads, but then also you wind up presenting information regarding open tasks, which is distributed not only on project leads, so the distribution by a project lead who's leading the project, but by the individual team members. One of the things that I'll tell you is that we automatically configure the system to include up to 10 project leads and up to 50 team members across projects, and you immediately put your people within the project, within this backlog screen, and you'll see the distribution occur. Open projects by line of business, by department, by project type, open tasks, open remaining tasks. So one of the things you're seeing here immediately as I'm going across, and I'm looking at this is telling me open tasks and open remaining hours, and I'm saying 8 hours, but there's 224 remaining hours. So I'm really kind of there's 3 tasks but 100 hours. So it's not simply just the number of tasks, but it may be the number of remaining hours that you're looking at. Now this is open tasks across all time, all remaining time. You may want to drill into not just that, rather than that, but look at overdue tasks. So this is showing you overdue tasks by project type, by remaining hours, last activity. Again, what I was kind of saying was that something's overdue. If something is overdue and I'm working on it right now, I've worked on it the last week, the last 2 weeks, but I haven't worked on it in 30 days, but it's overdue, that's what I want to be focusing in on. If I have an overdue task, how long has something been overdue? Has it been, over 5 days overdue? Has it been over 30 days overdue? And one of the things you can do is you can change the criteria and set up these criteria for whatever you want for your organization. Overdue tasks by remaining hours. One of the things I can say is, in terms of tasks that are overdue by 5 days, how many remaining hours have they dealt with? Well, here's where I'm going to look at Melissa. One of the things you can look at is tasks due by week. So how many tasks are due this week, next week, the week after, for the next 5 weeks, distributed by project and team lead. So I can look across, I can say who's got tasks that are due. And again, you can actually see is that we don't have quite 50 people, but I can actually see, who's got a task that's due coming up within the next weeks. I can see tasks by remaining hours by week, and also tasks due by their status. Tasks closed over the last 7 days is presented here. So one of the things you can kind of see is you can see what's been closing out. I can also look at, in terms of quality for the last 14 days, what were tasks that were overdue, and how did total tasks are completed, total tasks were completed on time or overdue, and what was my percentage. And of course, I'll see that distributed by person if there was but this is total tasks. So, you get that information as well. So that's giving me a kind of a backlog analysis. The only other thing we had was a config screen, which we already described. And so one of the things you'll be doing is taking a look at the final version. Will probably have some additional capability, but for now this is the beta version of the project workbook, and I hope it provides you at the current moment some insights into your project portfolio, and we'll be getting, based on the feedback, we'll be doing some updates and providing some additional information and a final version to go out probably either end of June, early July. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.